evening, or for those who are in other parts of the world, good morning. My talk, it's a very long title, 30,000 Years of Longing, Explorations of Human Desire and Technological Yearning. And as I go through as I show you the different slides, you'll understand why I chose this particular title. So let me start the talk now. Okay, here's my agenda. So there's several bullet points here, and I hope to make sure that I cover everything within 30 minutes. Okay, so I'm with that, I just want to clarify at this point. Okay, this particular talk is considered the after dark talk, although there's still light out there. Yeah, so just to be careful, I will not be mentioning the word TOY, just in case you have kids there. And please take note that this talk is rated 18 plus by the Australian classification system, because there will be some explicit materials that may be offensive to some sections of the adult community. So please be forewarned. If you have kids around, please, send them away, or make sure that, you're not showing the video. You're just like listening to this. Okay. So here's the backstory, why this talk came about. So we all know that ComfyCon started in 2020, and there's always that, chatter back and forth in the Discord. That's also happening right now in the Discord channel. And at that point, I indicated, hey, I'm interested in doing this. And then after that, a year later in 2021, so there's also like some talk about doing a talk about smart sex TOYS. And I got a screenshot, and people's names or handles have been blurred there or blacked out. But basically, it's because I've always wanted to do this. But the challenge was that, number one, during the pandemic, it was difficult to order this. I'll call them IOPs, Instrument of Pleasures. Okay, so they're IOPs. I call them IOPs, and it's like difficult to order. So yeah, let's see. Anyway, so about me, I'm a product of Project Friedman. So I was the first, part of the first cohort, and through that project, and also with the support of the different community members like cyber mom, the belief in me, being able to like deliver a talk, and the founders of ComfyCon accepting those crazy ideas that I submit for CFP. So yeah, so I'm a product of Project Friedman, and I joke that I hang around online in different communities, and I go on different side quests, and through those side quests I get to meet awesome people, do awesome stuff, make friends, and learn certain skills and knowledge. And I'm very concerned about the pipeline, and I'm glad that this time we kept talking about the pipeline. How can we make things better for everyone? And there's all these fantastic talks this morning, this afternoon, and it's really good that we're talking about it, and we're actually doing steps to do something about this. So I'm very concerned that about the pipeline, and that it doesn't lead to the sewer. And I'm a lifelong learner, and I consider myself, even at this stage, I'm always a student. I'm always learning something new, and I love to share what I know with other people. And for my day job, I'm a blue teamer, but I do have a purple team mindset. So with this particular talk, I started thinking about, hey, I want to do like some deep dive forensics, but based on my limited resources, like time and also like some equipment, I decided to focus on another side. So you would think it's like something coming from like a pen test, AppSec kind of, perspective instead of forensics. But this is just the tip of the iceberg, so to speak. Okay. Now, first, I'm going to start with history, just because I'm a history nerd. And there was one thing that Ian mentioned, like one of the chats before, about these IOPs being used as medical devices. And I thought, like, is that really true? So what I did was, hey, I'm going to like, read up, check, like whatever I could find about the different instrumental pleasures through the age. Okay. So I call this talk 30,000 Years of Longing, because I look at like what was the oldest, IOP, like oldest evidence of IOP in that was, in the museum. And I found this photo. This is the oldest IOP, and it's dated around 29,000 BCE, so before Common Era. So it's a Paleolithic stone phallus that was discovered in the Hole Fels cave. I don't know whether I'm pronouncing it correctly. It's in Germany, southwestern Germany. It's found by the archaeologist Petra Kaiselbach. So there's some speculation that it's actually an idol sculpture. So I've included the photo here. It's up for you to decide. And then around 500 BCE, the now famous Benwall balls came into existence in Japan. And originally, the original form was it's just one ball, and it was designed to enhance a man's pleasure during intercourse. Eventually, these balls evolve into the familiar toy that we know today, two balls that are designed to help women improve the strength of pelvic floor muscles. Okay. And then in 300 BCE, there was the first documented use of dildo. It's called Olisbos from ancient Greece. In fact, it was even mentioned in the Aristophanes play called Lysistrata. So for those who are into classical, classic literature and all those things, you'll be familiar with this quite interesting play about women exerting their power to make sure that we have peace and avoid war. So if you haven't heard of Lysistrata, I suggest you look it up. And then let's move along. So 1400s. In Renaissance Italy, the Olympus became known as diletto. Why? Because it's from the Italian word for delight. And the first reference to modern day dildo originates in Pietros Aretino's Dialogues, which is considered the first literary pornography. And in fact, Pietro Aretino is considered the founding father of pornography. Okay, so let's move along. In 1734 in France, there was this clockwork vibrator. I couldn't find a photo of this. It's called Tremusois. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it correctly, but anyway, it's you have it there, and it was quite interesting to find out that this is considered a medical instrument, and it made all the way to the American colonies in the 1750s. It was supposed to be purchased mainly by physicians, but there was no obstacle in custom or even law that prevents the purchase of this clockwork vibrator by any person who could afford it. So, mhm. Okay, so I lost my, yeah. Okay, there. Next slide. Okay, so now I put here the date 1844. You may be wondering what's Charles Goodyear's accidentally discovery has to do with the IOPs. It's about vulcanizing rubber. So he not only revolutionized the car world industry, but he also revolutionized the sextoy industry. Yeah, and the process of the vulcanization made rubber stronger and more durable, and eventually it led to the use of like production of condoms, dildos, and other instrument of pleasure. And then in 1882, Dr. Joseph Granville, patented the first electromechanical vibrator. And these were at least, 2 dozen models available to the medical profession. There were musical vibrators, counterweighted vibrators, vibratory forks, undulating wire coils called vibratiles, vibrators that hang from the ceiling, and even vibrators attached to tables. So by the turn of the century, there were operating theaters managing the scourge of hysteria. Supposedly, the vibrators is supposed to help women manage their hysteria. So they said. Okay, now going to the 20th century. Okay, in the 1950s, in 1951, Beat Use, who's a German woman, started mail order industry, selling initially uh, pamphlets about advice regarding medical health, and also regarding becoming good housewives. Okay. And then a decade later, actually in 1962, the first brick and mortar mortar sex shop opened in Flensburg, Germany, once again by Beat Use. And quite interestingly, in the 1950s, 1952 specifically, the American Medical Association declared that hysteria was not an ailment. So all those things saying that these vibrators are supposed to cure hysteria, it like all went out the window. Okay, and then in 1970s, Gosnell Duncan, who's a vocal proponent for disability rights. He got injured. He started working on perfecting the silicone dildo. So the challenge then was that when we talk about like the rubber, the vulcanizing rubber discovery of Charles Goodyear, yes, there were these IOPs that were made of rubber, but they were very low quality and they couldn't really handle a good washing, or will not they wouldn't withstand a lot of heat before losing their structural integrity. So Gosnell Duncan's work on creating this silicone dildo was really something that's useful not just for people who have issues with gripping, but it also paved the way for making a lot of our our current day IOPs, quite pleasurable to touch. Now, in 1971, Betty Dodson started uh, hosting masturbation workshops that focused solely on using a vibrator. And in 1977, Joni Blank's first store called Good Vibration opened. So this particular shop was a woman-centered, sex-positive environment. Okay, now moving forward in the 90s, 1991, Howard Rheingold used the term teledildonics in his book Virtual Reality to describe remote sexual activity using technology. So teledildonics, okay, is something that describes the current IOP industry now, the sexTOY industry. Okay, so and then also in the 90s, not sure if you watch a lot of American TV shows, but in around 1998, instrumental pleasures became household names with the hit series Sex and the City, and in fact, a lot of the things that Carrie, Samantha, and Charlotte had became the hottest property in town. Like, for example, the Rabbit Pearl, the Pyrex glass dildo, the Magic Wand vibrator, and the Love Swing suddenly became quite popular. Now, in 2003, the Lawrence versus Texas decision in the US fully lifted, sorry about the typo here, fully lifted the ban on sex toys. Other countries that really didn't have a lot of ban on this. It was just US. It's quite interesting. Maybe it's because of their puritanical roots. There's a lot of that issues there. But in 2003, okay, the decision to fully lift the ban was done. And then in 2016, the Internet of Dongs or IOD project was started by Renderman. In fact, the next year, he delivered a talk in DEFCON 25 Biohacking Village entitled Hacking the Internet of Dongs. And his work is still, he has a website, and that has been the source of my inspiration for this particular uh, project. And then also in 2017, Alex Lomas, who's a pen tester, coined the term screw driving for BLE enabled IOPs. And then in 2022, so everybody has been having a fetish with this. Okay. So in 2022, with great toilet paper shortage, there was also much difficulty in ordering IOPs online. So, yes, I know it because I was trying to get samples so that I could do this research. It was only this year that I had the opportunity and also the incentive because there's the ComfiCon 2022 conference, and I thought, oh, it's about time I should, do something about it. And I tried and I checked and I ordered and they came in. So let's start with the physical examination. So when the postman delivered the box and it was discreetly covered in white, and there was like no unusual names like sender and all those things, it was discreet. So I basically open it. Okay, but just to clarify, I had certain, selection criteria. Number one, it has to be an IoT device, Internet of Things device. It has to have wireless connectivity. And then I look at the Internet of Dong list, okay, and in the device wish list, because I don't want to duplicate other researchers' work. So what I did was that I look at what they don't have there. It's a wish list, and from that I started researching what are the IOPs that are locally available. So my other selection criteria was that I should be able to order it from a shop, from an online shop here in Australia. I don't want to like pay for very expensive shipping and handling fees. And then another selection criteria was that the app has to be available in the Android environment, because Android, aside from being one of the widely used operating system for phones, it's also quite open and there's very good documentation about it. Unlike with Apple and the apps there, it's like a closed environment. So I chose that. And then second is that I wanted to be inclusive. So I look at the target area pleasure. So it's either G spot or P spot. I ended up ordering two devices. The first is the Vacom Ella Neo. It's a vibrating bullet egg. And the WeConnect Vector Plus, which is a P spot massager. Now, what are my goals? First, without rooting an Android phone, what can we learn? And then with limited time, what can we learn about privacy and security? So note that this is basically a tip of the iceberg or a beginning of a new hobby. So maybe like think of it like foreplay, just starting, the actual deep dive. So I haven't really done like the deep dive forensics. That's going to be the phase 2 of this. Actually, it's going to be phase 3 because I still have other things that's on my list of things to do, like starting with this particular talk. So now let's look at this Vacom Elanio. So I have here a ruler just to show you like, the size. So it came in a beautiful box, but when I tried to switch it on, it wasn't clear how it can be charged. In fact, I had to go to YouTube and look for an unboxing video to help resolve this. Can anybody guess how I was able to charge this? So let's see whether there's like anything in the chat room here. Okay. Now, the thing is that, okay, so there was a tiny hole, and I thought like, is that where I'm supposed to plug this? The plug is too big for that hole. But I tried it, and then tanan, it started charging. So okay, so that's good. Okay, and now the interesting thing about the box is that there's a QR code. So I thought that once I scan the QR code, it will lead to Google Play Store. Unfortunately, it leads to their site, and it's kind of difficult to understand from their website where am I supposed to get their app. So I just went to the Google Play Store directly, and then I just searched for the name of the company. Now, the second IOP, the device that I ordered is called WeConnect Vector Plus. So it has a very utilitarian box design, and it's actually quite easy to figure out how to charge it. You can see that there's that two metal things on the black instrument, and then you have there on the charge, like the white, there's that metal thing. So it's quite magnetic. And then it also comes with a remote control that is paired with the device. So if you don't want to use the app, you can just use this remote control. And the good thing about this is that there's a QR code, and once you scan it, it will point directly to the Google Play Store. Okay. Now, by the way, okay, please remind me if I'm like going over time because I have like two machines here. Okay. Now, for preparation, so one of the things that I have to make sure that I'm prepared for is the reaction. So first of all, I didn't tell my parents that I'm doing this because they're gonna wonder like, you went to grad school so that you can hack these kinds of things. And then even my husband, when I told him that, hey, I got this, sex toys, and then he said like, oh, okay. And I said like, I'm gonna use it for research. Like I'm gonna like do some, tech stuff with this. Yeah, right. Even the people in the ComfyCon Discord before have also like commented when I was like saying, hey, send me like a news clean, IOPs. They said, yeah, right. But anyway, so I took the initiative and that's it. Now, my goal here is to show that for people who may not have really deep, cybersecurity background, you will be able to understand, as long as you have some basic computer. When I say basic computer, you should at least know what a VM is, okay? And you can like download Kali Linux, okay? So that you can do, if you want to start doing some investigations, you can do so. So make sure that you get the latest Kali Linux VM, and then make sure that you install the Android tools ADB and also install the APK tool. So you can see there a screenshot on top. That's a history of like my commands. I'm just like, typing things there. And I also tried downloading and installing Android Studio in the idea that I would be able to use that and better understand the APK. But it turned out that it's a little bit more complicated. So because I don't have enough time to figure it out, so what I did was that I just used the APK tool so that I could think of it and zip the APK file and be able to see the Android manifest.xml file in clear text. Okay, because when I first opened it, I couldn't, it's like garbled. And then other thing was that research your BLE dongle options. So I forgot I lost this BLE dongle I had from grad school. So I had to order from Core Electronic. Shout out to them. They have express shipping. Okay. Now, so when I so my goal here is not to root my extra Android phone. So my idea is just to find out that without rooting anything, I'll be able to pull the package. So the thing is that when I first look at the packages, there are some names that are not apparent. So for example, I was looking for either Vector Plus or WeConnect. So I found WeConnect. Okay, now for the other one, the Ella Neo, I couldn't find Ella Neo or Svacom. And then I saw one of the files there with the base that apk equals com, that's sva.sva. And I thought, I wonder whether this is it. So I pulled that out. And then when I pulled it, I opened it. And then inside that Android manifest.xml file, I looked at the permissions and I actually saw the vibrate. And once I saw the permission for vibrate, oh, this is it. This is the correct package. Okay. Now, okay. Now, I'm just going to give you an overview about Android. So it's like, think of it as like beginning with the mindset of a novice. So for this particular research, I'm beginning as a novice. This is like totally something new for me. So things that I've learned, of course, when we talk about the application itself, come on, why is my slide not moving to the next one? Okay, here we go. So the Android apps, okay, can be written using Kotlin, Java, and C++. I used to think it was just Java. And then there's this Android package called APK. It's basically an archive file. It contains the contents of the app that is required at runtime, and it's the file used for installation. And then for an Android app, there are the app components. Basically, these are your building blocks, and there are 4 types. So you have there the first one, which is activities, which is the entry point for interacting with the user. And then you have services, which is the general purpose entry point for keeping an app running in the background. And then you have broadcast receivers. So think of this as a component that enables the system to deliver events to the app outside of a regular user flow. And then you have the content providers, which is the component that manage a shared set of app data that you can store in the file system or SQLite database or on the web or any persistent storage location that the app can access. So all of these are documented. There's this very good site, developer.android.com, and there's a lot of very good materials out there. Now, so what about the Android manifest.xml? So before an Android system can start an app component, the system must know that the component exists by reading the app's manifest file. And the app must declare all its components in this file, which must be at the root of the app project directory. Now, if you're so the way that I'm moving now is that I'm doing static analysis. So it's a beginner's way of like doing static analysis. But there's a very good document called Mobile Application Security Testing Guide. It's from OWASP. So I also consulted that. So that's a very good document if you want to do some more of like analysis or testing of mobile applications. Okay. Now, looking at the Android manifest .xml. Okay, so one of the things that I'm quite concerned about is whether there are permissions there that allow the app to track the physical location. Okay, so there's this particular permission called access find location. And it basically indicates that the app will use the Bluetooth scan results in order to find the physical location. But what I found is that both the Svacom and WeConnect app have a very strong assertion that the app will never use Bluetooth permissions to derive physical location. So it's defined. So you will see there at the bottom of those screenshots, you can see there, use permission flags never for location. So never for location. Okay. And then another thing I read about is about the backup flag. So there's the backup flag is called allow backup. So it defines whether the app data can be backed up and restored by a user who has enabled USB debugging. So what I've done, like for example, in order to get this APK, I've basically enabled the USB debugging. I've also enabled the developer options on the phone. Now, if the value is set to true, that means any attacker can take the backup of the application data via ADB, okay, which is the Android debug bridge, even if the device is not rooted. So that's not good if you see their allow backup flag set to true. So for Svacom, they have the flag set to true, while for WeConnect, the flag is set to false. Okay. Now, there's another flag called protection level. So it defines the procedure that the system should follow before it grants permission to the application that has requested it. So the purpose of this protection level flag is to protect the privacy of an Android user. And fortunately for these two apps, both the Svacom and the WeConnect, the value is signature. This basically means that the permission will let this particular permission will only let the system grant only if the requesting app is signed with the same certificate as the app that declared the permission. So you have that. So protection level flag. Okay. By the way, I'm gonna make sure that after this talk, I answer any questions. So just keep on posting your questions. I'll go through that. Okay. Now, I wanted to do a more deep dive in terms of BLE. Okay, but I got busy with other things and didn't have enough time. So I'm just basically covering the very basic stuff here. So, for those who are wondering what's BLE, Bluetooth Low Energy, it used to be called Bluetooth Smart, and it's a wireless personal access network designed and marketed by the Bluetooth SIG, the Special Interest Group. And just to clarify, Bluetooth Low Energy is independent of classic Bluetooth, and there's no compatibility between the two. And there's like two important concepts about connectivity. Some people tend to think of it as like client server, but it's not client server kind of relationship. It's called central and peripheral. So central, think of it, it's the BLE device that initiates the outgoing connection request to an advertising peripheral device. And the central device is usually the smartphone. In my case here, it's my Android phone. And then what is peripheral? This is the device that accepts the incoming connection request after advertising. So the peripheral devices will just keep on advertising and wait for connections. Usually the peripheral is a BGMXXX module or EFR32 device. Or in this case, these are the instruments of pleasure or the Svacom, Ella Neo, or the WeConnect Vector Plus. Now, how many of you are familiar with the term war driving? Okay. So of course you can't talk or something. Just show me like chicken nuggets if you have that emoji. Okay. So let me just see whether. Okay. So I'm pretty sure almost everyone here is familiar with war driving. Okay. Now, how about screw driving? Have you heard something about screw driving? Okay. So, screw driving is a term that was started by Alex Lomas, wherein he talked about like hunting for Bluetooth adult toys. And as I mentioned earlier, BLE devices would advertise themselves for discovery. So, what Alex Lomas found was that there's no PIN or password protection. So, the next part of my research for this particular IOPs will include this. And then, of course, name are easily discoverable. Of course, I've seen that because my phone actually sees that, and then when I switch on the Bluetooth functionality of my laptop, it also saw those IOPs. So I will not go into detail with this one. There's this link I put in there. It's going to be also in the last slide of this presentation. So if you want to do a read up about this, yeah, go ahead. Okay. Now, the other thing that I look at is in terms of the BLE connection, the interval. So this is the time between two data transfer events between the central and the peripheral device. Theoretically, the values would range from 7.5 milliseconds to 4 seconds with increments of 1.25 milliseconds. So why was I looking at this? So in the next part of this, I'm going to try to figure out whether I could uh, try to insert like another device to in between this connection intervals. So for vacuum Ela Neo, I found out through the packet capture that the value is from 2.5 to 6.25 milliseconds. For WeConnect vector, it's a bit longer, it's 10 milliseconds. So here's a screenshot of those of the Wireshark, the packet capture that I got. So in terms of the peripheral name, so I was searching for them, and it was kind of difficult because I was looking at like the MAC addresses and doing a lookup of the Bluetooth MAC addresses, and I couldn't find like, okay, this is like something different. And there's like I keep on seeing this what looks like Texas Instruments, and then finally what I did was I just searched for the string for the name, and then I found there the device name vector, and then having found that there's that device name, I searched for another string device name, equals has this value Ela Neo. So I found that, and that's how I saw the connection intervals, which is below the names. So it's quite interesting that the terminology used by the Bluetooth SIG refers to such devices as peripherals. But when you look at it from the Wireshark um, GUI, it shows as slave instead of peripheral. Now, another thing that uh, what I called as infidelity test. Okay, so based on the Android manifest file, yes, there is that configure line there saying that it's supposed to pair up, connect with the previously paired device. So I tried figuring out from the phone itself without using the app, can I pair from the phone, like direct from the phone to the IOP? And both apps actually showed up the message an app is needed to use this device. So excellent, really good. Okay. So maybe like let's see like next part of this project, figuring out whether I could change something in the app itself so that I could actually directly pair from the phone outside of the app to the IOP itself. Okay. So what are the implications, okay, of this thing that I've found? Okay, so first, okay, is about privacy. So what I found quite interesting is that yes, definitely permissions before using location information. So I've seen that. So I got this screenshot from Svacom. Okay, and then the other thing that quite I found quite um dodgy was that for the WeConnect app, there's a requirement for an internet connection. I mean, yes, I found out through the app I can share like a link wherein another I could give it to another person and they'll be able to either control the app remotely or they could like do some viewing. But what if I just want to control the IOP locally, just inside the room? So why do I need internet connection? Okay. And then another thing was that are screenshots allowed? So interestingly, for WeConnect, okay, there's the message there, can't take screenshot due to security policy. So screenshots are not allowed. But when I tried the same for some Vacom app, so definitely I was able to get a screenshot. But even though the WeConnect app doesn't allow me to take screenshot from my phone itself, I was still able to use another phone and take photos of, that particular screen. So there's always a workaround. Now, other implications here is about secrets because as someone mentioned earlier during the talk, I mean like during the conference, like we should be protecting our secrets. So yes, we should be protecting our secrets, but but the things that in terms of the sex TOY industry is that a lot of the times, a lot of this development happens inside like closed environment. There's not a lot of testing until these pen testers in 2016, 2017 talk about this. And I guess there's a lot of shame when we talk about sex and other things that brings us pleasure. So the thing is that if we are really concerned about protecting our secrets, we should be making a lot of research about these kind of things. So I hope this particular talk has given you an idea to do something during your spare time, and do some research. And this is quite interesting because it involves not just wireless, think of it like wireless pen testing or application security. It could also like lead to smartphone forensics. So from a perspective of like phone researcher, like smartphone forensics, or think of it from a perspective of someone who is sex positive researcher in terms of advocating for privacy rights. And so, I know you'll hate me, Sin. Before you plug, Trump. So hunt for any threats to your personal, security. Because it could be that, you're using certain tools, devices that you're deeply ashamed of. And, just before you do all these things, have fun, just figure out whether there's really security in the app that you're using and even the devices. So just to clarify, there's no kink shaming or slut shaming. What we need to do is do more research on teledildonic so that everybody will be able to satisfy their curiosity and indulge in their favorite pleasure without being afraid that their secrets will be leaked out. So thank you for giving me this opportunity to talk about a topic that I find quite interesting. And also, okay, just in case you want to reach out to me, my DMs are open. So I have that Katniss Melb. I call it Twitter hardcore because I'm staying to watch while it burns down. Twitter hardcore, like you have, like I don't. For those who haven't heard about this, engineers and staff members in Twitters were told, "Hey, you have to commit hardcore, like working what 16 hours a day." So that's crazy. So anyway, thank you, and I hope this has been a fun and educational luck note. And thank you once more to Ian and Shana for giving me the opportunity to do the luck note here. And then for those who are interested, okay, so these are the resources and sources. And I want to thank all those people uploading cool photos in Unsplash. So their names are here. And then these are the sites that I've, use as my guide in doing the research and also creating this talk. So if you have any questions, please feel free to, just at me in the Discord. And thank you once more.